It's time to update our rest of season rankings for fantasy football. Obviously, some huge news in fantasy football this week that's going to impact this entire rankings list. Joe Burrow, potentially out for the entire season. You've got Jaden Daniels potentially out. JJ McCarthy is now looking like he's going to be out. We got to update our rest of season rankings, and let's start right there with wide receivers. Jamar Chase, is he still an S-tier wide receiver?
Until proven otherwise, I don't think you can move him that far down like a lot of people have actually in the expert rankings on the site. A lot of people have Jamar Chase very, very low, which I'm not gonna like make fun of him for it. I'm just gonna err more on the conservative side and be like, Jamar Chase is the highest paid player in the NFL, can command some of the most elite level target volume, and has dropped 30 plus points with Jake Browning at quarterback. Was that volume a little more inconsistent on a weekly basis during that stretch? Yes. But this is a completely different season. This is a completely different outlook for this team. They're going to have to stay competitive by throwing the ball constantly. They're 2-0 right now. So I think Jamar Chase, until proven otherwise, is going to be fine. Wide receiver 1, probably not a lock, but I think he'll be fine.
But here's the thing, and you're hearing this argument a lot, and I want to just kind of dissect why I'm not buying into this argument. Because the first thing I asked Nathan when we knew that Joe Burrow was going to be out a long time, I said, Nathan, what were Jamar Chase's stats when Jake Browning was the quarterback at the end of 2023? And Nathan sent me the screenshot, and I looked at it, and I said, F, that's not good. Yeah, and so
that's what everybody's doing right now, though.
But we do have to understand the context behind this, and this is what I remember from when Jamar Chase played with Jake Browning that year. His utilization as a wide receiver in that offense was completely different than it is now.
Facts.
Like, very different, because they were using him primarily as a vertical threat. That's how he was getting most of his targets. His ADOT was much, much further than it is right now. He wasn't getting the short targets, the screen targets, the quick slant targets that he gets in that offense that he gets today. And so when you're talking about reading the stats, it looks ugly. But part of that is because Jamar Chase was more big play dependent in 2023 than he is now. You saw an effort to get Jamar Chase the ball in space, close to the line of scrimmage as soon as Joe Burrow went out. I think the utilization is going to be completely different here, and I don't think you can look at Jake Browning in 2023 with Jamar Chase and say that that's how it's going to happen this time. Because I think realistically, if you're watching the tape and you're looking at how he was actually being used, it's completely different, very different utilization, very different deployment. I'm going to keep Jamar Chase in the S tier for now, but CeeDee Lamb, Puka Nacua, Malik Neighbors, if you can get those guys for Chase, I'm fine making a pivot, but I mostly think Chase is a hold right now.
Yeah, and then moving down to the A tier, it was really nice to see Amon-Ra have a 3-touchdown week, really making up for what was a disappointing week 1 performance for that entire Lions offense across the board, and then all of them decided to be productive against Chicago, kind of a revenge game against Ben Johnson. Why do I always say Brian Johnson? It drives me nuts. But Amon-Ra, look, Amon-Ra is phenomenal. You do see some of those floor games, though, which are a little more consistently lower floor than what we used to see even just a couple years back. But he's still going to be at the top of the A tier here. Jefferson, I will say, I want to highlight Jefferson in this tier because JJ McCarthy going down with the injury, the high ankle sprain for the next 2 to 4 weeks, I think is no joke. I think it's a positive for Justin Jefferson. The passing volume for McCarthy was worse than Jalen Hurts, and McCarthy looked like a deer caught in headlights. He's not ready. He's not ready, and it's going to take time for him to develop. And I think that Carson Wentz, while he's not a great quarterback, there's a lot of chaos and there's a lot of passing volume with Carson Wentz when he is starting. So for the next 2 to 4 weeks, I think it's wheels up for JJ, and I think he's going to be able to bounce back from a really slow start this season. You got other guys here, JSN, Drake London. Those are kind of your high target volume guys that we feel very comfortable with week in and week out. Expect Drake London to bounce back after a disappointing week against a solid defense with Minnesota. And then your high upside guys like Nico Collins and BTJ are going to be in this A tier as well, who we just trust more than the guy at the top of the B tier.
All right, let's go to the B tier here, A.J. Brown. Look, with Brown, a little bit concerning, honestly, when you're seeing how he's being used right now, and his advanced analytics just aren't great right now, to be honest with you. It's only 2 weeks, though. They've had some tough competition. We're not going to overreact over 2 weeks, so we're not going to move him way down our rankings. We're going to keep him mostly where he's been with a teardrop there. We are going to move somebody way up our rankings, though, and that's Rome Odunze. And just being frank with you, I know Rome Odunze has 3 touchdowns in 2 games, but he also does have 9 and 11 targets, and I think the target share and the usage and the effort to get him the ball in that offense, I think that's the reason you move him up. Sure, the production has been great in the first 2 weeks, and we love to see it, but the utilization is what has been fantastic, and the main question with Chicago Bears was who was going to be the wide receiver 1 there this year, and I think it's been very clearly answered so far through the first 2 weeks that Rome Odunze looks like he is schematically the wide receiver 1, and not only that, schematically the focal point of this offense. And so I think people are being a little bit too conservative with Rome Odunze. I think people are like, yeah, it's 2 weeks, we'll see. But Rome Odunze He's the wide receiver 1 from a utilization standpoint in a Ben Johnson offense. That means a lot from a fantasy football perspective. Other people can drag their feet with Rome Odunze. This channel's not going to. This channel believed Rome Odunze was the wide receiver 1 6 months ago. And so Rome Odunze right now, where does that rank him? I think 13 for us.
12.
We have him as a wide receiver 1 rest of the season. That is absolutely bold. However, with the way the tiers work, and this is what you need to know, is anybody in this tier, A.J. Brown, Lab McConkey, or Garrett Wilson, if you want to rank them over Rome Odunze, that's how the tiers work. We're taking Rome Odunze comfortably over everybody in the C tier, but in the B tier, these are all guys we would take interchangeably. So that said, we have Rome Odunze anywhere between 11 and 14 here. That's where we feel comfortable with Rome Odunze. He's a huge riser for us. Lad McConkey, we're not going to panic on. Lad seemed like the most involved wide receiver in that game, and just because he didn't have a touchdown, you're seeing him at his floor, which is 10 to 13 points. I'm not worried about Lad at all. We're not going to move him down a lot. It's not worth freaking out about. Garrett Wilson, a little bit concerned about the Justin Fields injury, but we are still very high on Garrett Wilson for the rest of the year. He had 9 points. I think that's probably his floor as well. He didn't have a touchdown this week, and that's what's going to happen, but he still had 8 targets, and so that's what Garrett Wilson does. He gets a lot of targets. He's going to convert more of those, I think. It was a tough matchup against the Bills in a game where they pretty much just got blown out. We'll keep all these guys here. I'm not going to overreact on any of these guys with like Lad or Garrett Wilson yet.
Yeah. C tier is going to be a little bit bigger. We're going to have Marv at the top. We're not going to panic with Marv yet either, but I will say when you're talking about production floor on a week-to-week basis, it is a lot lower than the guys, I guess with the exception of A.J. Brown in the B tier. And Kyler is just... oh my gosh, it's just a lot of the same with Kyler. So I don't really know what to think about Marv at the moment, to be completely honest. I want to see a little bit more, see if he can kind of get a little more consistent target volume usage. It's already better than it was last year week to week, but a 5-point game is just not what we're looking for. But again, we're going to keep him in the C tier for now. Cortland Sutton had a bum game against the Colts where Troy Franklin went nuts, so we'll monitor that, but I think Sutton will be fine. Devontae Adams finally breaks out, gets his touchdown. They gave him like 8 red zone targets, 8 end zone targets in that game, and finally got him into the end zone. And he had a phenomenal show out with Puka Nacua also dropping 25 plus points. They are a amazing duo right now with Matt Stafford. Ted McMillan had a 10-plus target game. He looked phenomenal, and that's going to continue as long as Carolina has to pass the frick out of the ball because they're going to be down a lot. Their defense is awful. Mike Evans, the target volume is amazing. We're not panicking with Mike Evans really at all. I think he's going to be fine. I would be more worried about Igbuka's production outlook rest of season than I would with Mike Evans, because Mike Evans is out-targeting Igbuka at the moment, and once Godwin comes back, we don't really know what's going to happen between Igbuka and Godwin, who's going to get the majority of the target volume there. Tyreek Hill still got to be in the C tier. He had a nice little bounce back game against New England, which was a tougher matchup. And then Zay Flowers, I think, is just going to settle in this C tier. He doesn't have the upside that the guys in the tiers above do have, but he's just so consistent with that target volume. He's not going to have crazy touchdown red zone opportunity all the time. He gets a lot of his work between the 20s. And but again, with that target volume as a wide receiver 1 in an offense that doesn't really have much to go around for any other receiving asset, he's just going to be so consistent this year. We really like him a lot.
If you'd like to see these rankings in full, by the way, we do have them available for you for free over on the site. You can go look at them. Also, plug your teams in the My Teams tool and see where you rank through 2 weeks in the season in terms of power rankings. The My Teams tool pulls based off of our rankings, the expert consensus. You can sort by our rankings specifically, so you can kind of see where your team is through the first 2 weeks of the season. Again, you can do that all for free. I've got the link down in the comment. Wanted you guys to know that you have that tool available to you. But the D tier here, T. Higgins takes a little bit of a hit with the Joe Burrow injury. The argument because of the Jake Browning splits with these two guys is that Higgins isn't going to take that much of a hit and Chase takes a huge hit. And I think it's honestly...
Why are we overthinking it?
I really don't think it's great.
Why is the number 2 not taking the hit?
Yeah,
it makes no sense.
And T could end up being fine if they throw the ball a bunch, but T, we're not going to move him down a ton. He's still about where we've had him the entire season. Emeka Egbuka obviously has another touchdown. Without the touchdown, you're seeing a little bit more of a pedestrian day for Emeka Egbuka, but he had the touchdown, so we're not going to count it against him.
Yeah.
You got to wonder what it's going to look like when Chris Godwin comes back. Regardless, we still have him as a mid-wide receiver 2 rest of the season. DK Metcalf, I think he only had 4 targets in his revenge game, and he basically salvaged his day by catching a jump ball in the end zone. So he had 6 targets, 3 receptions, 11 fantasy points. Again, 12 and 11 points for DK Metcalf is fine. It's flexible. It's not great, and so you kind of have to be a little bit conservative how you rank him. Terry McLaurin, we're still going to have up here, but I mean, It was already bad for Terry. Terry got 9 targets in his last game, which was great, but he only caught 5 of them. He didn't have a touchdown. He didn't have a big play, and now Jaden Daniels looks like he's out. And so we have moved Terry down a little bit at this point. I think you kind of have to. With Terry, I have him in the Flock League, obviously, and I just don't know what it's going to look like there. I honestly don't. And then Jamison Williams. I have Jamison Williams ranked above Terry McLaurin now, but we have him in the same tier. With J-Mo, obviously J-Mo last week, we picked him as somebody we thought was going to have a really tough matchup. He only has 5 targets. He only catches 2 passes, but he catches 2 for 108. He's literally got the Randy Moss stat line, and he can salvage his entire day. That said, he's the wide receiver 27 through 2 weeks, more or less where we project him to finish the rest of the year, and I think his big playability was showcased in this game where he can salvage a bad day just because he is able to get 50 yards per reception. So we'll have J-Mo at the end of this tier.
Guys, I mean, Jalen Hurts, second straight day, 22 passing attempts. 22 passing attempts. We got to get used to it. We better get used to it. Devonta Smith, in a game where Dallas Goedert was injured, and you see those splits when Dallas Goedert is and is not on the field, another pedestrian day for Devonta Smith. He has, I think, like 9 points or something like that. So, again, I don't want to panic too much because he just, historically speaking, has some boom games as well, and the touchdowns should come in. You've seen 7, 7, and 8 touchdowns the last 3 years. That's really what you're holding out hope for at this point, though, because the target volume is just not going to consistently be there. Chris Olave does have the target volume. We need to see the touchdowns come in a bad offense where Rattler is throwing the ball a lot, so that's nice for him. Deebo Samuel outproducing Terry McLaurin at the moment. He's been moving up our boards quite a bit as well. We're both on the same page there. Avery has him at 29. I've got him at 31. Rest of the season at the wide receiver position. George Pickens comes into his own in Dallas's offense in a very high-scoring matchup, one of the most entertaining matchups against the Giants. Nobody expected that, but it was really fun to watch. It was really fun to see Pickens be such a high impact player in that game. Expect him to be boom bust. A lot of these guys in the F tier are boom bust. Xavier Worthy injured. We don't really know what he's going to look like once he comes back from that shoulder injury. Travis Hunter, when is he going to get consistent volume, and when is Trevor Lawrence actually going to be able to consistently get the ball to BTJ and Hunter and actually be accurate? I don't know, TBD on that one. Jacoby Myers actually has the highest floor of any of the guys in this tier. So he had a nice 12-point game where they didn't score any touchdowns against the Chargers on Monday night, but we're pretty confident that he's going to be fine. I do want to highlight him because we have him very, very far apart in our rankings. Honestly, I think you're more right. I should move him up anyways.
Yeah, I've got him at 26. My guess is, would you be comfortable putting him just at the top of this tier?
That's fine with me. I ranked him based off of his lack of ceiling, and you ranked him off of his floor, hands down. So that was the difference there. And then Rashee Rice, we have a different ranking system for him because I have a hard time ranking rest of season guys that are out for 6 games, and basically both of us are moving him up every single week now from here on out incrementally. So I guess I'll just jump him up more next week.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's down to 4 weeks. Every week I move him up a little bit more, and by the time he comes back, rest of the season, he will be, in my opinion, a top 12 wide receiver. So every week I'm going to move him up a little bit.
Yep.
G tier and H tier here real quick. We'll just go through these last couple tiers. I'll do these, and we'll start running backs. We've got Calvin Ridley. Ridley obviously still hasn't done much. Ricky Pearsall is going to be missing Brock Purdy for the next couple weeks. DJ Moore, Keon Coleman, who had a little bit of a slower week. Addison will be coming back soon. We're going to incrementally move him up as well. Michael Pittman did pretty well against pass retain, actually, by the way. I mean, he definitely could have had a worse game than that.
He salvaged his day.
He definitely did. And then Waddle and Judy in the G tier. In the H tier going down here, you can see we have Chris Godwin, Keenan Allen, Juwan Jennings, Darnell Mooney, Josh Downs, Khalil Shakir, Marquise Brown, and Cooper Kupp. Kupp did have a good game, by the way. If he does continue to stack those good games, we'll have to move him up. But it's one game, and we'll see with Cooper Kupp. Marquise Brown was hobbled a little bit in that game, and it looks like Worthy's going to play this week, and so we'll see what his target volume actually looks like. Juwan Jennings did have a touchdown, by the way. I moved Juwan Jennings up a little bit. Nathan kind of kept him where he was, and so he stays in this tier in the aggregate. We did move Keenan Allen up in this tier, though. He is somebody that looks pretty good. And then the last tier here, I tier, real quick. Diggs, QJ. QJ had another touchdown. Rashid Shaheed. We moved Matthew Golden down continually because he's just not involved enough, man. There's not enough volume there. Tillman, Ayuk, Boutte, Jaden Reed, Jaden Higgins, and then Troy Franklin makes it onto this list after 2 good weeks and is a solid waiver wire pickup for this week in fantasy football. Let's jump over and let's start our running back rankings.
Yeah, so at the S tier, we're going to have Bijan, Barkley, Gibbs, and CMC. Every single week, one of these guys can just have a phenomenal, running back one overall week. I definitely think Bijan is the safest. I think Saquon Barkley right now is producing at his floor in what are 2 kind of lower-ish scoring games for that offense. But again, 18 and 17 points respectively. He's had a couple of touchdowns, a touchdown week 1, touchdown week 2. Like, Saquon's going to be fine. You're going to see some crazy games here for him from here on out. So we're not going to keep him anywhere outside of the S tier. Gibbs splitting the backfield, obviously, with Monty. He still looks fine. And then CMC, as long as he's healthy, got to be in the S tier.
Starting with the A tier, of course, Derrick Henry had a slow week, but he is still somebody we are not worried about at all. Devon Achane continues in a bad offense.
There you go.
To produce. I mean, it doesn't really matter for Achane. It seems like he's going to get his own from a receiving standpoint. 26 points. He's the wide receiver 5. The running back 5. I should say wide receiver because he's got 14 targets on the year. Yeah. I mean, 10 targets in his last game. So, but running back 5 for Devon Achane, who, again, is kind of overcoming that situation. JT looked like vintage JT, to be honest with you. It was really fun to watch as a Colts fan, and honestly, that offense has just been so much better than we imagined. It's made JT much better than we imagined for fantasy. 29 points. He ran the ball 25 times in this game for 165 yards. That is
215 all-purpose.
That is absolutely insane. It is insane by Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is creeping towards that S tier.
Yes, he is.
Josh Jacobs and James Cook to round it out here. Josh Jacobs had a touchdown. He had 14 points in his last game. Continues to be a very high touchdown upside guy and one of the best teams in the NFL. James Cook's the running back 1 in fantasy football. James Cook's the 7th overall player in fantasy football. Two straight 21-point games, or 20-point games, 21 and 26 to start the season on 56 and 47% snap share. What a guy! It's not going to continue. His targets dropped from 5 to 1 in the Jets game, probably because they were blowing him out, and he's not going to continue to just have 2 touchdowns every game. But it's definitely worth ranking him here. I mean, he looks like somebody that I should have taken at the 2-3 turn in my flock league draft instead of freaking Amari Hampton, who we have moved down, by the way. But with Cook, I mean, you can put Cook anywhere in this tier, and he looks really good. So.
And there's a reason why we have him in that A tier above all the guys here in the B tier that we're going to talk about next. Bucky Irving had another solid week, but it is interesting that Rachaad White's usage went up quite a bit in what was a very competitive game. This wasn't garbage time usage. Rachaad White was looking pretty solid, and this is not knocking on Bucky Irving or anything like that. It's just why we're going to have him not in the A tier with those other guys that really have a grip, such a solid grip on their respective backfields more than anybody else in the B tier here. Alvin Kamara has another pedestrian week, but honestly, I think we're seeing his floor as well. He's just going to remain very consistent, and he's always going to miss a couple of games every single season. And he's, again, just going to be like the best weapon in that offense for Spencer Rattler, and the best running back there, hands down. Kyron Williams, we're not freaking about a 10-point game where Corum got a fourth quarter touchdown, goal line carry. We're not really worried about that long term. Ashton Genty starting quite a bit slow, but he looks fine. Anybody who's watched Genty in those games is like, yeah, he's going to come into his own. We're not really worried about that long term. We did move him down our rankings a bit. I think Avery and I are both on the same page about that. We have him as a low running back 1, high running back 2 rest of the season. I don't think he has the upside that he was drafted at still, but I think we're just going to be a little more conservative with him here on out until he shows that he can do more. Chase Brown, very, very inefficient, but he's going to continue to get the volume there. And then Breece Hall comes back to earth after a nice showing in week 1, where he actually does have the bell cow workload there, but it's just a bad offense. So all these guys just a little more questionable than the A tier guys.
Yeah, the C tier guys here, we're going to start with Chuba. Chuba's been great to start the year. I like Chuba right now as a buy low. I think he's great. And if you can get Chuba from Ryan Hampton right now, I mean, it's something I don't think I could get done, but I would love to do it at this point. With Hampton, I'm less worried about, and I'll just kind of give my Hampton spiel right now, because this is how I feel about it. I'm disappointed that I drafted him in the second of the flock league. But honestly, like, the reason I did that was because he's a my guy. He still is a my guy. I still like him. I still think he's a great running back. And in that league of all leagues is the league I'm going to reach on my guy. I'm not doing that in every single league, but I did want to do it in that league. Right now, it doesn't look great. There's a lot of season left for Hampton, but I think, the box score watchers are going to be a little bit in the wrong on this one, in the sense that if you're actually watching all of Hampton's snaps, I mean, I don't know that the run blocking there could be much worse for Hampton. Again, it's very evident on his film. Sure, Hampton could look better as a running back. I totally acknowledge that. But I think you're watching in Monday night's game, I think he had maybe, of the 8 carries he had, maybe 3 of those where he got past the line of scrimmage without being touched. And he turned those into a 15-yard run, I think an 8-yard run, and a 5-yard run. The 3 goal line carries, the Raiders are in the backfield. Like, you got Max Crosby in the back. The fumble was not his fault. I mean, the ball, it was actually credited to Justin Herbert. I know it sounds like I'm coping, but I'm just saying, like, Hampton, I don't think is dead. Like, I don't think Najee looked that much better. I think Najee just got better opportunities because they didn't actually let them blow up the play when Najee was on the field. And they also gave Najee checkdowns they could have easily given Hampton. He would have done the same thing with him. I'm not out on Hampton. I don't think Hampton's dead. Am I worried about it? I'm worried about it because the offensive line there looks so bad. And because the Chargers, Greg Roman, it's like they kidnapped him and replaced him with I don't know. It's nothing like a Greg Roman offense we've seen. And so those are the reasons I'm concerned about Hampton. That's why I moved him down. I don't think Hampton looks that bad. I don't think Hampton is cooked. I don't think he's dead. I'm worried because the Chargers offensive line, regardless of why he's not scoring points, he's not scoring them. And the big reason why, in my opinion, is because the offensive line there is so freaking atrocious on run blocking, and because they're simply not giving him enough usage and to support him as a high-end fantasy asset. And so that's my Hampton spiel. I am worried. He's not scoring enough points. I just don't think it's because of Hampton. I think it's really because of the situation that he's in and what that's looked like to start the year. Javonte Williams, I would take over Hampton at this point. We got him in the same tier. I have Javonte ranked higher. Nathan has Hampton ranked higher. I think Javonte rest of the season, when you're looking at that offense, he is getting every carry in that offense. And a decent offense. 20 and 25 points. He's a running back 3.
He looks good.
He looks really good. I'm being aggressive. I think he should be ranked high.
We have him one spot apart.
Yeah, well, I'm way higher on him than you. Travis Etienne, you have to continue to move up as well. He's looked really good to start the year. I don't know when he started being good at football again. It literally is beyond me. It is so beyond me. It is beyond me. Travion Henderson, we have to keep moving down because while I do think he's still going to be fine this year, kind of the same thing. His main thing is not that he's getting tackled in the backfield. His main thing is actually just his utilization. He looks good when he's on the field. Like, he legitimately looks good, and they just don't use him. They just were like, we drafted him in the 3rd round. He looks awesome. You're not playing. I don't necessarily understand it, but Ramondre looks fine as well, and we had to move him up. And then James Conner, he's doing James Conner thing. He's consistent as heck.
Yeah, so D tier, not a ton of surprises here. There's one thing I will want to highlight in a second, but Kenneth Walker, we've got at the top of the D tier here. He kind of comes back to life his second week, and Charbonnet comes back to earth. Tony Pollard is a bell cow there. He's the worst bell cow in the NFL. The worst bell cow in the NFL. He is so inefficient. He is quite literally, he's the most boom or bust bell cow that I've ever seen. He should have a high floor. He doesn't. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, we're going to have in this tier as well. Hopefully he can increase his workload as Eckler went down with the Achilles. DeAndre Swift, I think, will be able to bounce back as well. Monungai, don't buy into that usage that he got at the end of the game. Again, it was at the end of the game. They just sat DeAndre Swift because the game was over. Really want to highlight Quinshawn here. Avery and I have him 6 spots apart. I understand that I'm biased because I own him in the Flock League, but Quinshawn, with a third of that snap share in that game, outproduced Hampton and Travion Henderson. I mean, this dude, they were like, dude, 2 practices, 2nd round pick.
Get in here.
We like you. You look talented. Get in here. And he
classic,
does.
Classic Browns.
He had 10 carries for 61 yards. 6 yards per carry.
I mean, just for contrast here, you had Amari and Hampton have that role to himself in training camp, have all
with
of
no
training
Najee.
camp with no Najee.
And in Cleveland of all teams is the one that's rational. They're like,
yeah, we give him the ball.
Give him the ball. Just get him in. Go.
Eat. I mean, is that not ridiculous?
Yeah. So you realistically, you probably are going to see at some point in the next couple of weeks, if Quinshawn's usage goes up and they don't continue this split, and his usage is more consistent than Henderson and Hampton, then they're going to be in the same tier rest of the season. F tier, your turn.
Yeah. Dobbins, look, we have Dobbins ranked ahead of Harvey by a little bit now. He had 2 15-point games to start the year. I'm not going to try to figure out Sean Payton. I'm going to rank them in the order of their depth chart. It's going to be Dobbins and then Harvey. I'm done trying to figure it out. David Montgomery had a touchdown last game, so had a decent game. Still isn't an offense where even when they scored 50 points, you're talking about Monty having 13 points. And so really he's just going to be a high floor guy for you this year, and that's really what you drafted him to be anyways, so it kind of works out. Charbonnet comes back down to earth. He was really bad, and so we have Kenneth Walker ranked ahead of him now instead of them being back-to-back. We'll kind of monitor that again. We're just going to kind of adjust our rest of season rankings as we see these guys continue to perform and we get a larger sample size. Move Jaylen Warren up into this tier. You have to, because Jaylen Warren, had another game where he had a ton of receiving usage, and that's how he scored his fantasy points. And so he still does look like, Caleb Johnson's a non-factor there. Kenny Gainwell's not going to be on this list either. And so, And then Scadaboo, we moved Scadaboo up to this. We're being conservative. He's only 2 spots ahead of Tracy, but a tier above, because he came in his second game in the NFL and outcarried Tracy double. He looked like the running back 1 there. They were using him as the running back 1. So Scadaboo looks like somebody if you have in your roster. I cannot believe that Mason has Scadaboo. I literally cannot believe it, dude. Yeah. Every time somebody moves up my rankings, I'm like, who has him in the Flock League? Literally can't believe it.
He's the luckiest son of a gun of all time.
Well, I lost to him. I have no room to talk. So, and you probably are going to lose to him this week if I had to guess. He's got a great team. So.
Hey, I've got Quinshawn coming back.
That's true. It's Quinshawn revenge
T.
game.
Higgins with no Burrow.
Quinshawn revenge game.
G tier, we're going to have a bunch of 2s here. Ramondre is a 2, but maybe a 1 question mark. He's moved up our rankings quite a bit. Tyron Tracy he's starting to get taken over by Scadaboo. RJ Harvey behind J.K. Dobbins. Aaron Jones is in this tier because he was declared out for the Sunday game on Monday, immediately after their game, the day after. I'm worried he's going to miss a lot of time. Like, don't be shocked if he's put on IR and misses like 3 to 4 weeks. You've got Pacheco in this tier as well. Jordan Mason going to be right by Aaron Jones. We don't think that Jordan Mason is going to just explode with Aaron Jones being out. I think Ty Chandler is going to get some work there, so that'll be interesting to monitor. But we may have to move Mason up incrementally over the next couple of weeks if he really just looks amazing. Bashal Tutin had a nice week, but limited snap share. And then Nick Chubb salvaged his day with a touchdown. We're not expecting that every single week. It's a bad running back room in Houston.
And then I'll do the last 2 tiers here real quick. These are your handcuff running back 2 guys. Trey Benson, Rashad White looked good, by the way, and so I moved him up my rankings a little bit. Kareem Hunt has been serviceable. Dylan Sampson's with a 10-point game again, but you're going to have his workload continue to decrease. Mixon, we still got ranked here. I don't know if he plays, honestly. I'm here. He's got higher upside than everybody here, but he's hurt. Najee, I still, here's the thing, like, people are like, oh, Najee looks so much better. I don't even think Najee's rosterable in fantasy football still. Like, I legitimately don't. So I personally, that's my opinion. Kenny Gainwell ends up right here as well. It's kind of the same thing. Tajay ends up here, and then the last tier guys, again, a bunch of guys that are barely rosterable in most leagues, and so we've got them ranked here, but they do have maybe some upside. So,
hey, we do need to mention Jeremy McNichols, though. McNichols will be continuing to potentially move up our rankings here. He honestly should probably be in the H tier with the rest of those guys, but we do expect him to be the number 2 there, and is just not as good as Eckler. He was the number 3 in that offense for a reason. Starting at QB. So S and A tier, we're going to split up here, but talk about them at the same time because they're basically all the rushing QBs. Allen and Lamar, 10 times out of 10, we're taking over Daniels and Hurts. The reason we have Daniels a tier down from Allen and Lamar right now is because of that knee sprain. Well, rest of the season, I don't think it's going to make him lose or miss out on much more time than just this week, but that does make you wonder, like, is this going to hinder his mobility long term? So we will have him in the same tier as Hurts, who just does not have the passing volume that guys like Lamar and Allen do, so he'll be in the A tier as well. But again, these guys have floors that are second to none in the A tier compared to the guys in the B tier, starting with Baker.
Yeah, so we've got Baker, who obviously continues to perform. He obviously is very fun to watch.
He's so fun to watch.
The QB8, 22 and 19 points. You can start him every week. Like, he's just reliable. Mahomes has been the same thing so far this season as well, and part of it is because Mahomes continues to produce on the ground. He's had a rushing touchdown in each of his first 2 games, 26 and 23 points. He is the 4th overall QB and 6th overall player in fantasy football through 2 weeks. He looks fairly startable this year. I mean, I think the entire year. Kyler Murray, Kyler continues to kind of disappoint from a fantasy perspective even. Kyler in this game where they were like, mounting a huge comeback, only had 15 points. To be honest with you, I'm a little bit lower on Kyler here. I have him ranked at 11. Nathan has ranked at 7. I don't love Kyler rest of the season. I just think he's very replaceable. I am being very aggressive with Daniel Jones, as you'll see later in the rankings. But Kyler has been fine. Justin Fields is obviously hurt now. Drake May, I have ranked above both those guys. You have Drake May below both of those guys. Obviously, we have him as the last guy in this tier. Are you comfortable if I say that I like Drake May over all those guys, pretty much? Fields and Murray.
I literally, they're all in the same tier. I do not care.
Yeah,
You start any one of those guys any given week, and it's like, yeah, they either drop 25 or they drop 15, and you saw that with May the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So.
C tier: Herbert, Goff, Purdy, Caleb Williams, and Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, I think you have to move up. I really like Daniel Jones rest of the season. I have him as a top 12 quarterback, and I do think with the amount of times they are legitimately QB sneaking into the end zone that he has a very high upside every single week, and also a fairly high floor. And then the last couple tiers here, not a ton of changes. Jordan Love, obviously on a good offense here, and then the last year we had to move J.J. McCarthy down, of course, and Joe Burrow is out of the rankings because of the injury here. So
yeah, then tight end will be real quick. We got S tier, a new guy in the S tier actually that we want to mention. Brock Bowers and McBride are going to be sharing the S tier with Tyler Warren now. Tyler Warren, in a game where he was less productive than he was week 1, still had 7 targets. He was looking at 9 and 7 targets respectively in the first 2 weeks of Tyler Warren's rookie year, 14 and 12 points. So he's just looked like, honestly, in the receiving game, the focal point in that offense. He looks like he is the go-to more than Josh Downs and more than Michael Pittman. It's just as straightforward as that. So he's going to be S tier with Bowers and McBride. Tucker Kraft and Laporta will share a small A tier together. Avery has him at 4. Avery has Laporta at 4, Kraft at 5. I have Laporta at 5, Kraft at 4. So we literally have them swapped. They're in the same tier, I think, rest of the season. Laporta has more competition within his own offense. Kraft has less competition. Laporta is a little more proven consistently over multiple years. B tier is going to be absolutely massive, and I totally agree with this. It's just a whole lot of and like question mark every single week. What are these guys going to do? Who's going to go off? Kelsey, and then you have to have Kittle in this tier because he's going to miss time. Kittle will basically be in that A tier. Actually, he'll be in the S tier with Bowers, McBride, and Warren once he's back healthy. But it's literally like Kelsey, Njoku, Hawkinson, who might move down a tier after the next couple of weeks if he doesn't get more target volume. Goddard, Pitts, Juwan Johnson, and Ertz we want to highlight in this tier. They continue to move up our rankings as they have the most consistent target volume of pretty much anyone in this tier. Ferguson has had 2 solid weeks. Harold Fannin now belongs here. Kincaid and Andrews. Andrews is a guy that will continue to move down our rankings if he does not get consistent target volume. We saw this last year, only 69 targets last season. Nice. It looks like it might be worse this year. Unless those touchdowns come, he's going to just be absolutely disappointing every single week. So
again, if you enjoy the rest of season rankings videos, would you please drop a like? Make sure you're subscribed. Again, you can get this for free. We have our rest season rankings and our weekly rankings available for you at flockfantasy.com/domain. I've got the link in the comments. Just create a free account. You can access our rankings. You can plug your team into our My Teams tool, and you can check out where you rank after 2 weeks among your league mates and how good your shot is at winning a fantasy football championship. That's what we're trying to help you do. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you later.